Hi everyone, I'm Mariana, and if you're watching this video, it probably means that you are ready to start reading and have not been reading for a couple of time now. To give you some context and background, I spent about 10 years without finishing a book or only reading one chapter of a book the past 10 years. And last year in 2024, I thought I need to change that. I cannot continue just like reading a chapter. I really need to make a habit out of reading. It was a habit that I thought was going to be very beneficial for me. So today I want to give you a couple of tips that helped me go from 0 to 12 books in a year. Yeah, I read all of these. I feel so proud. I'm never gonna stop bragging about it. Like, I feel like superwoman after reading this. And obviously there's a lot of people that read way more than me, but for me, 12 books last year was definitely an achievement. Okay, first tip I have for you is accountability. Many times when we're trying to create new habits, it's very challenging to continue with them because we don't have accountability. It's very easy to just slack off because nothing happens. So I recommend that you find a friend or a family member, a coworker, a peer, anyone that you can tell them that you are planning on reading more and asking them if they have any similar goals. I feel that way, like both of you or the people that you really tell this goal to who are trying to do the same thing can really push each other to go towards that goal. Something that really helped me was that I told my friends that I really wanted to start reading and create a habit out of it. And surprisingly, almost all of my friends wanted to do the same thing. So we all decided to create a book club. And we created a book club last year in 2024, and we met for the first like 5 or 6 months. Afterwards, we kind of just like stopped doing it because a lot of people were traveling and stuff. But still, doing that book club and going to that book club was super helpful for me because that meant that other friends of mine were also reading and we were also reading the same book. So I always had something to look forward to discussing with them when reading that book. The way we would do it was that we would actually come with a book suggestion and then we would have a raffle. To be honest with you, the first 2 to 3 months, I did not take a book recommendation because I just didn't know anything about books or what people are reading, what should I read. I just, kind of went with the flow. And the first book that was randomly chosen because it was a raffle was this book called The Silent Patient, which honestly was amazing. I think this was like the best book to get me into reading again, and I highly recommend it. The way that it would work was that the raffle would happen, a book would come up, and we would give ourselves 4 weeks to read it. So that meant that we would always meet around either at the end of the month or at the beginning of the month, which was so helpful to also have that accountability because we kind of like had a deadline, and that date was set in stone. If we said it's gonna be like towards the end of that week, like we would all have to find a time to actually meet. So I highly recommend you to team up with friends that can keep you accountable or find a way that helps you be accountable for the goals that you set for yourself. My second advice would be choosing a book for fun. A lot of the times what would happen to me was that I would choose self-help books or any book that would help me in my career, which honestly I think it's very helpful and so valid that a lot of people go and reach for those books. But at least when you're starting to read, you kind of have to find something that interests you, and that might be business, that might be psychology, all of that, right? But what I noticed for myself was like I kind of just needed a book that was for fun. And I didn't know that back then. And I was very lucky because The Silent Patient was that book that was randomly chosen, and it's a genre that I had never thought of picking up, right? It's thriller and mystery, and I realized while reading it, I literally went from not reading a book in 10 years to reading this book in 3 days. And when I was reading this book, I was so surprised because I just would never had picked up this book. I would always go for the same ones. And for me, this tells me something, it is okay if you want to read for fun. A lot of the times we assume that reading is just so that you can get more educated or you can learn. And let me tell you something. All the books, no matter what you're reading, teaches you something because it gives you different perspectives. It tells you stories of other people, which kind of opens up to a lot of other possibilities. So my recommendation to you would be, it's okay if you want to choose other genres outside of just educational genres. Maybe you are into sci-fi or romance or historical fiction, thrillers, mystery, just so many types of books, right? And I realized that when I was reading through this book and many other books that I read, I realized that my attention and just my motivation to read was so different. So my recommendation would be, again, choose something just for fun, at least for your first book while you start getting into the habit of reading. Advice number 3 would be making time for it and being intentional with the time. What I mean by this is a lot of the times we have time to scroll on TikTok, we have time to watch series and Netflix and everything else, and we don't think about how that time takes away time from other activities that you would like to do, like reading, for example. My recommendation would be to challenge yourself. If you are working one day and you have like a work break where you have like 5 to 10 minutes, instead of grabbing your phone and being on social media or just doing random stuff, pick up a book. Pick up the book that you're reading or that you want to start reading, and I swear to you, 5 to 10 pages a day makes a difference, and it's getting into the habit of reading and just starting to do it, right? I also recommend for you that if you're someone who likes to be scrolling as well on your phone before bedtime, maybe cut down that time and then the rest of the time use it to read. Also during lunch breaks, you can read instead of being on your phone. And you'll realize, kind of going hand in hand with what I mentioned in tip number 2, if it's a book that you're enjoying, you're not really going to miss being on social media or on Netflix. So I highly recommend that. Another thing that really helped me get into the habit of reading was figuring out where I could read that could also help me achieve another goal. For example, for me, I had another goal, which was getting 10,000 steps a day. If you know about that, that takes quite a bit of time throughout the day. So I really wanted to find a way to do both at the same time. So I started taking my book to the gym, and while I was walking on the treadmill, I would actually be reading. Like, I would be holding myself with one hand and then had the book on the other one. And honestly, there was a time where I read a book per week, and that's how I got to 12 books, right? Because book club only had 5 sessions, but then my habit of reading continued throughout the whole year. So yeah, I feel like that would be a very good idea if you're someone who's into walking. I had never thought about that possibility, and honestly, it's awesome. So now that you know these tips, please let me know if you found them helpful. What other tip would you give it to someone if they wanted to start reading? Please leave it in the comments below. And also let me know if you would like to know what benefits I saw after I started incorporating reading into my daily routine, or if you're curious about what other habits I did in 2024 that I'm carrying into 2025, please let me know and write it down in the comment below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.